Hello, so it's Recovering Hedonist, and I've been putting off filming this video for quite a while now. As you can see from the title, it's about revelation and a dream, or I guess you could say nightmare, that I had recently. I'm filming this at 5:15 a.m. on July 27th, but I had this dream on July 8th, 2026. So almost 20 days ago now. And I just wanted to preface it before I read out my dream, because I'm just going to read it out on the phone. There are some celebrities within this dream, but I don't think that the dream is saying that these celebrities will legitimately be interacting with me or a part of the plan in this way. I genuinely think that the mainly three celebrities that I saw within this dream were put there just to make it a lot more memorable, because it's more memorable seeing a celebrity in a dream rather than somebody that you don't even recognize, like a typical person, a stranger. And the night before I had this dream slash nightmare, whatever you want to call it, I was on this couch actually talking with my husband, and I was bringing up hell. And I don't like to talk about hell a lot, but I was saying that these days hell has been on my mind a lot more, and it's very troublesome. Like, I don't love the idea of hell. But I felt it was very important to keep hell on my mind, and I still haven't finished it, but I had been watching this hell testimony compilation, which is really just ugh, it's not a fun thing to listen to, but I think it's very important. And so the next night, like that night that I went to sleep, I had this revelation dream. And so I interpret this as God's sign that am I am on the right track in remembering hell and remembering the dire consequences of not clinging to Jesus. Okay? And one more thing before I read it. I had come back to Christianity 2 years ago when I was 24. And I remember asking God one night if I could have a dream. I was like, God, I'm going to be a little too scared if you actually talk to me. That's going to terrify me. So I would appreciate if you didn't do that. But, if you're willing to give me a dream of revelation, I am open to receiving that. And I hadn't thought about that in quite a while, but 2 years later now, I received a revelation dream. So make of that what you will. I think it has meaning. I think it's a sign from God. Anyways, all this blabbing, I'm going to read my dream entry. And keep in mind, it's kind of odd, okay? Whatever. Just stick with me. I had somehow booked a flight alone somewhere, but it wasn't to Vegas, and I wasn't in Seattle either. I think it was somewhere else, near the water, maybe California. That would have explained the celebrities in the dream later on. When I'm getting my luggage, it's in this weird, huge outside auditorium area, and eventually people start coming in. There's tons of people around me, gathering their luggage and having to repack their things like me. I don't know if this meant that security, forever we were, if they went through all of our things, but it was all messy and it all had to be repacked. Eventually on stage, there are people, 2 women actually, who say that we must admit that the American government and we as Americans are traitors. Our government had been taken over. Funny thing is, the 2 women up on stage were American. In that moment in the dream, I knew I was screwed. My mind went to revelation. And I knew that I would be beheaded soon enough because I wasn't willing to say I had no need for God, as well as not being willing to call myself a traitor for simply being an American. It's like I just knew. I will never see my husband, or my mom, or my brother ever again. I won't get to say goodbye in person. It would have to be over text. There were men in these military-esque uniforms patrolling the area with big rifles, making it clear that any opposition would be met with violence. I was very frightened. Revelation was unfolding before my eyes, and I was going through it on my own. Eventually, we are escorted to this place. It's a clothing store within a mall. I don't know why. Daniela from Cat's Eye, I told you it was going to get kind of weird. Daniela from Cat's Eye is one of the two women that is leading this bizarre, forced revolution. She dislikes me. I keep trying to secretly send texts to my family, but I keep getting caught. I keep losing my phone, but manage to keep finding it. I also happen to have a Bible on me. Daniela makes it clear I am not to read it or to tell others about it, which confuses and hurts me because she claims to be a Catholic. So clearly, she is not a true believer. I'm saying this about her in the dream. I don't know her. If she is actively trying to hide Jesus from people and silence someone like me who wants to spread the word. I eventually go to the bathroom. The bathroom is large, like weirdly large. I lock the door. I don't have much time. I write up a message to my husband, first telling him that I love him so much and am upset I won't be able to say goodbye in person. I was like really upset in the dream. I mean, this felt extremely real. I don't have time to type out as much as I want, but I say that there has been a takeover and I don't see myself making it out alive because I don't want to deny God, nor label myself a traitor for being an American. I know this is my attempt at a last goodbye without seeing his face again. Then I go to my mom's number and send a similar message to save time, but edit it slightly to say I won't be able to see her face again, but I love her so much, and that revelation is truly unfolding and I can't say much more, because banging on the door starts happening. The dialogue here is going to be pretty weird, okay? But I'm just going to read it the way it happened in the dream. "What's going on in there?" the women shout. "I'm just shitting, gosh." I tried to make an excuse. "What's taking so long?" they demand an answer. "I'm trying to shit, but I'm too constipated, and y'all have confiscated all of my medications, so that doesn't help me." In the dream, I didn't see this, but it was true at this point that I had no access to my Lexapro or propranolol, which made it even more clear to me I would soon die, since sudden withdrawal from both. But especially propranolol would mess with my heart and likely kill me sooner. I wrote this all immediately after I woke up. They, the two women leading the revolution, or at least like they were the faces of the revolution, they were furious with me. They knew I was up to something. My phone, and I was still in the bathroom, had accidentally connected to the Bluetooth, and they shouted, "Who is Annalise?" because my phone was labeled as my name under the Bluetooth. I don't remember if I said I don't know, but I kept claiming I was desperately attempting to take a shit and needed more time. Okay, I know it's weird. Eventually, one of the women, not Daniela from Cat's Eye, but somebody else, I don't remember who, demanded to come in. She was furious. Someone else was in the bathroom there with me too. Like there were two women in the bathroom with me. I basically ended up having severe diarrhea, likely from the stress, and had to shit without any privacy. This toilet wasn't even in a stall. It was just in the bathroom, like by the many sinks. The stalls were next to me, but I was to use the visible toilet. I had also smuggled my red Bible in the bathroom somehow. which is funny because I don't even own a red Bible. I do own a pink one though. But it was by the sink, the Bible. I knew they'd hurt me if they found it on me, so I left it there, not wanting to destroy it, but to leave it out. And when I finally left the bathroom, I unlocked the main exit to the bathroom in the mall shop and opened the door, and Daniela from Cat's Eye was scowling at me. She was pissed. She questioned me on what I was doing and if it was true I had a Bible with me. I just told her I took so long because I was severely constipated and I have no access to my medications that I need because they confiscated all of them. She was very angry about the Bible and was on to me. I accused her of not really being a Christian to try to get someone to not talk about Jesus. This was kind of as she was walking away. Okay. There were now many people in the mall shop, not just some women. I had been part of the first group rounded up to be in there. Remember, some of the details of this are weird, but that's just because it's still a dream. It's not completely grounded in reality. Now within the mall shop, now there was a huge group of military men. This just shows my mind is a bit odd. Sanrio stuffed animals, Cat's Eye members, young black dudes, mainly fatter ones, but like the main thing of what I'm trying to say is I can't put into words how many different kinds of people there were. And they were all like in their own specific group. It was like everyone was just segregated into their own clique. I don't know how else to explain it. I saw it all, like every kind of type of person. I felt increasingly worried of my impending death as I had made it clear that I was against this takeover, but the two women leading it weren't sure of enough cause to flat out kill me just yet, especially in front of everyone. Eventually, as I'm walking around the area of the mall shop, which again is very huge, I see so many groups of people. The revolutionaries had ordered everyone to sit or stand across from their friends and family. I had none. I had none with me, so I didn't know what to do. I was walking around and glancing at the other groups, wondering, where do I go? I don't know anyone here, truly. Then suddenly an older blonde woman, maybe in 30s or 40s, comes up to me and says, "You're it." So I know the game of tag has started. She is hopping around on one leg, trying to catch me, while I simply run or walk normally. Even in the dream, I was weirded out. In the dream. I ask her, "What are we doing?" Even though I know in the dream that it's just the game of tag. To me, it just didn't make sense to suddenly have to play tag while knowing my death was near due to this sudden and close to violent uprising. She said, "Pick somebody," and I asked, "Somebody I like or somebody I don't like?" Not wanting the choosing consequences to be bad. She said, "Anybody you want to chase." So I decided to pick people I knew I could outrun and people I disliked. I chose two people and won the first round of tag with the first person. I know this is weird, but we're almost towards the end, and I don't really even get the point of the tag game in this dream, but I'm just saying everything how it happened in order in the dream, okay? So I chose two people and won the first round of tag with the first person, who I don't remember who it was, so it clearly wasn't like a famous person or someone I recognized. For the second person, I went up to Cat's Eye's table and I chose Megan. It's cringe, okay? She was shocked. I hated her simply for agreeing with Daniela enough to not be against what she was doing to other people, to be against religious freedom like this. Megan stared at me and I made a sudden move. I jumped towards her in a jump scare sort of way to fake her out. It took her a few steps back. She assumed I'd run away rather than deliberately get closer. Anyways, I eventually got tired of the game mentally because I saw it as a waste of time. I also had zero access to my phone anymore, so I just kept hoping mentally that my messages had been delivered to both my husband and my mother. and that if my mom didn't get hers, that my husband would at least let her know what was going on. I kept thinking of them and feeling extremely sad, knowing my death was near. At this point, the shop in the mall was very dark and hardly lit, and it was clearly nighttime now. The dream ended with me telling Jenny from Blackpink about Jesus. Again, I think this is just to make it memorable. The dream ended with me telling Jenny from Blackpink about Jesus and asking if she accepts him as her savior. She said no and shook her head and looked sort of confused. I whispered the gist of Revelation in her ear. I had to whisper because if we were seen secretly communicating, it was seen as conspiring against this new government takeover, which was clearly some sort of dictatorship. It was like this other girl and Daniela were like the face of the revolution, but they weren't really the full-on leader. Like, I didn't know who the Antichrist was. Who were they acting on behalf of? I whispered to Jenny in the dream, and I quoted exactly what I said in the dream. At Jesus' first coming, people expected a lion but got a lamb. But at Jesus' second coming, people will expect a lamb but get a lion. He is cited as having eyes of flaming fire in Revelation. In the eyes of God, we have all fallen short. We all have sinned, and the wages of sin is death. Somebody had to pay that wage. Jesus pays that wage for us if we believe in him as our Savior. He paid the wage of our sin by dying on the cross for our sake. That's our only way to escape hell, and we are all likely to die soon by these people. Then a male guard tried to interrupt us and told us not to whisper to each other. He sort of like pushed me away from her. He asked what we were talking about, but we didn't answer. I told her again as I leaned in and whispered, Jesus is coming back, and I've read Revelation, but I can't show it to you to read for yourself because they, the ones in power, have confiscated my Bible and my phone, and that I no longer had access to either, but that it was possible my red Bible was still in the bathroom, but very unlikely. I finally told Jenny, it's the last chapter of the Bible, like the last book of the Bible. I've read Revelation myself multiple times, and I'm telling you that this is it. She seemed to accept it as the truth with fear, but also with genuine faith. Seeing it as making sense and feeling thankful, I told her about Jesus and Revelation and the Bible unfolding before our very eyes. My whole goal throughout the dream was I need to tell at least one person at least, about Jesus. Then I'm okay with dying. You know, I was still sad about it, but I was like, okay, I can feel a little bit better about my death. Because not everyone's going to know what's going on. At the end, it was very dark outside, but there were now many people pushing their faces up against the window to get in. The doors had chains and padlocks on the inside, keeping them shut, but the sheer weight of the crowd of people pushing up against these doors was leading to the doors opening a bit, but there still wasn't enough room for them to enter. These people, they all seemed to be shouting and in a panic and complained of having a severe lack of food and water. I couldn't understand why they wanted in where I was. I wasn't safe in here either, but it led me to believe that maybe outside was even worse due to their sheer panic and chaos combined and the look of utter agony on their faces. The very last thing I saw in the dream was an outside perspective. I didn't see myself, though I was allowed to see the outside and how there was nothing to eat. But the revolutionaries had deployed robots to go outside and deliver food and water. The robot turned into water. Literally. Visually. Like I saw the robot come out in the dream and turn to water. kind of like those weird AI videos where they transform into something. The robot was not humanoid. It was actually quite small and looked like a typical robot, more so how robots looked in the 1950s rather than hyper realistic these days. And I think perhaps that was shown to me in the dream that way so I would know that it was a robot rather than just like a really high tech one that looked like a human. I could tell that it was a robot. And so, yeah, that's my revelation dream slash nightmare. And I read this to my husband the day I had the dream, and I wrote down a note about what my husband said about the robot thing because I just thought that's so weird. Why at the end of the dream did it cut to this like outside angle where I wasn't even in the dream anymore, but I was like allowed to see what was happening on the not on the inside, on the outside, and how this like robot was like deployed outside by the revolutionaries to give them food and water, and it like literally turned into water. I just thought, like, what is that? That's just so weird. Like, why did the robot come out of nowhere? What was that about? Why did it turn into water? And my husband said that about the robot, it sounded like the Antichrist version of Jesus turning like the bread and the fish, like the water to wine, and then multiplying the fish for people. Like it was the fake inverted version of it. And I thought that made a lot of sense. That kind of gave me a bit more clarity to my dream. So yeah, this video was longer than I had anticipated, but I feel good that I finally decided to record it and, make of that what you will. I see it as a true sign that I'm on the right track in my belief system and Jesus is the only freaking way. Okay, this thing it is from a Latter-day Saints church, which I didn't go to, but my husband found it for me, and I just wanted a little remnant of Jesus. Like, yes, he doesn't look as Middle Eastern, but we all know who he is, okay? I know I do my K-pop videos and stuff like that, but I do think it's the most important thing is to cling to Jesus and to have the afterlife on your mind every day. Every day. Of course, we all still have like things to do in our life, like chores and, artistic projects, but ultimately God is what matters in this life. And I am not making a prediction of when exactly these moments will go down, but I feel like God perhaps was telling me that I am going to be around for tribulation. And perhaps I was wrong in this idea of a rapture and kind of being saved from it. I feel like my dream was a way of God saying, like, you're going to be here for the tribulation. And again, there was no mention of beheadings going on, but in the dream, I had this innate knowing that that's how I would go. And I don't really like to talk about this, but when I came back to Christianity again 2 years ago when I was 24, I remember having this horrible, horrible feeling, and I kept having this bad feeling, like about getting beheaded. And I've had weird thoughts throughout my life, but it was just like really disturbing. And I was like, why do I keep thinking of that? Like, why am I afraid that might happen to me? And then, like, that was before I even read Revelation and saw that the believers in Christ are going to be beheaded by, basically, let's just say, the enemy, because they're going to be working for Satan. So, I don't love that, but who knows? Yeah, it's a heavy, heavy topic. It is a heavy topic for real. But I felt I had to get it off my chest and tell the world about it, even if barely anyone clicks on this video. I think I was meant to tell people about it. And I'm really thankful that God gave me this dream / nightmare. I felt like immense sadness and a bit of fear. It was like my body was fearful, but my soul wasn't. That's the best way I can put it. My body was fearful, but my soul wasn't. And I was going through it alone. I was going through tribulation, going through revelation on my own. I don't know if that's exactly how it plays out for me. I hope not. But yeah, I see it as a sign that things are unfortunately only going to worsen on this earth, but you gotta make a choice. You gotta make a choice who you serve. If you make no choice, you're still choosing to serve Satan. And I don't always talk about this stuff, and it pisses some people off when I do, but talking about God, talking about Jesus, that's the most important thing anyone can ever talk about in this life. And really, he's all that matters. So thanks so much if you chose to tune into this. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know if you've had similar dreams or visions, I don't have a lot of dreams of this. I don't want to call myself a prophet, but I mean like prophetic nature, like tying into scripture so much. This just isn't typical for me, so it felt special. One more thing that I forgot to mention while I was recording this video a couple weeks ago is that I didn't seem to be much older than I am now in the dream. It didn't seem like I was even 30 yet, so I don't know if this is yet another clue from God that these things will take place not that long from now. I don't turn 30 until 2030 for further context. And I mention this because I have read about people having tribulation dreams like 40 years ago, and that people have said that they were in their 60s in the dream, and that now 40 years later or so they're at that age. So it just kind of seemed like an interesting connection to possibly make. I just wanted to be sure to add that little detail. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.